On this Friday night, Canadian concessions in U.S. trade talks. From alcohol to autos, what the Carney government is reportedly considering in exchange for tariff relief.
At the end of the day, their strategy's been working, but so has ours.
The Canadian job market's remarkable rebound.
We're seeing a certain resilience, we're seeing a certain optimism.
What's fueling the surprising rise in employment? A deadly rampage at a school in Thailand. The mass shooting by a 14-year-old. Plus, a slow song that spans centuries. How this organ is performing the world's longest concert.
Global National. Reporting tonight, Jeff Semple.
Good evening and thank you for joining us. We begin with a major development in Canada-U.S. trade talks. The Canadian government is reportedly discussing a deal that would see Ottawa agree to a list of demands from the White House, including an end on the ban on American booze. In return, the U.S. would scrap its plans for new 50% tariffs, and the Americans would also agree to lower some sectoral tariffs. Now, the deal isn't done yet, and as Sarah MacDonald reports, some provinces are already pushing back.
The ban on American booze remains one of the biggest sore spots in the trade war between Canada and the United States. Most provinces pulling it from shelves last year in the face of punishing tariffs on Canadian goods, put in place by U.S. President Donald Trump. Some premiers insist that won't be changing.
We will never put U.S. alcohol back on the shelves.
Now, with leaders of both countries in talks to negotiate a broader trade deal. New reports, first confirmed by the Globe and Mail, say Canada may be willing to budge on its booze ban in return for tariff relief, as the U.S. threatens a whopping 50% levy on hundreds of Canadian imports, with a looming deadline less than 2 weeks away.
Canada's nasty. They are. They're nasty.
Prime Minister Mark Carney responding to these comments from Trump.
But they're nasty. Nasty leadership.
In Quebec on Thursday.
Whatever adjective is used, yes, we're standing up for Canadian workers, for Canadian businesses, as we always have from the start.
Carney also said to be considering concessions on other retaliatory measures, including in the auto and dairy sectors. That's if the United States ditches those new 50% tariffs and is willing to bend on ones already in place, specifically taxes on aluminum and steel.
It's about, well, this is important to me and this is important to me. Okay, let's see if they match. Let's move to the next issue. This is more than just momentum. This is critical movement.
Movement that could signal a seismic shift in trade talk dynamics going forward.
So at the end of the day, their strategy's been working, but so has ours. The U.S. is like a gigantic tariff-creating machine. That's all that this administration does, and we have to be able to find a way to get out of this economic siege.
One potential sticking point, though, liquor regulations. They're provincial, not federal, which means Ottawa might not have full control over fulfilling its own commitment. And some strong leverage in high-stakes talks, with Federal Trade Minister Dominic LeBlanc set to be back in Washington, D.C. on Monday for what he's described as constructive and detailed discussions. Sarah MacDonald, Global News, Vancouver.
And a little later, we'll look at how a U.S. ban on foreign-made robotics is hurting Canadian manufacturers and could push some companies to move south of the border. Well, despite that trade uncertainty, Canada's job picture provided a welcome surprise today. The latest figures showing employers were hiring last month. The economy added 75,000 jobs in July, the third straight month of growth, significantly beating economists' expectations. Our senior business editor, Jacqueline Hansen, joins us to break down those numbers. Jacqueline.
Jeff, economists are calling this everything from a summer hiring surge to a job market on fire. 75,000 jobs added in July. Now, 1 month doesn't make a trend, so here are the past three. A total of 181,000 jobs. And the unemployment rate declined over those 3 months as well. It's now at its lowest level in 2 years. That momentum, along with the job gains happening across industries, is really getting attention.
We're seeing a certain resilience, we're seeing a certain optimism returning to the labor market.
Returning because it was a weak start to the year.
There were a number of headwinds that needed to be navigated. Whenever that is the case, employers will stall.
There were concerns Canada was in a recession, but not anymore.
The Canadian economy has rebounded in the second quarter and is carrying positive momentum into the third quarter. And that's good news for job seekers and for businesses.
And it is good news. More people who want a job are landing one, and more people are looking. Take the job fair for the Canadian National Exhibition last month.
Well, we had thousands of people come to our job fair, and we had more than 50,000 applications for 5,000 positions. So the demand is massive.
Many of those job seekers were young people. And for students, the summer job market has improved. Last July, their unemployment rate was 17.5%. This July, it was about 15%. So better, but still above the pre-pandemic average of 12.6%.
It's still a challenging job market for people across generations. So improvements, but still competition.
So a couple of good months for hiring, but there are still challenges. And our trade relationship with the U.S., it remains a big source of uncertainty for many businesses. So depending on how that plays out, this summer hiring surge could stall once again. Jeff?
Jacqueline Hansen in Toronto. Thanks, Jacqueline. And meanwhile, in the U.S., the latest job numbers there were also a surprise, but for the wrong reasons. American employers shed 23,000 jobs in July, and revised job numbers from May and June also saw reductions of around 100,000 jobs. The U.S. unemployment rate fell to 4.1% last month, but that was because more than 260,000 people left the job market, pushing the participation rate down to a 5.5-year low. And some bad news for grocery bills. A new report from the United Nations says global food prices have increased to their highest level in more than 3 years. The UN says the rise has been driven by a jump in prices for cereals, sugar, and vegetable oil. The wars in Iran and Ukraine, along with a rapidly developing El Niño extreme weather system, could fuel further food inflation this year. Turning to the wildfire fight in Western Canada now. The federal government says it will sell 10 retired Hercules aircraft to a BC aerospace company to bolster wildfire fighting capabilities across Canada. Those aircraft will be converted into water bombers and could be deployed next year. Well, this summer, hot, dry conditions across BC's interior are keeping firefighters on high alert. Global's Taya Fast is tracking the situation in Vernon, BC tonight. Taya.
Jeff, it is still very smoky here in Vernon, and while flames from the Bradley Creek wildfire are no longer moving like they were days ago, there is still a lot of work to be done before this area is considered safe again. The fire hasn't grown significantly over the last few days. BC Wildfire says hotspots are still active within the fire perimeter. Crews and structure protection teams are working around the clock while tree fallers are removing dangerous trees along Highway 97, and contractors are working to repair hydro infrastructure. Around 230 homes have been destroyed. In Vernon, more than 2,600 evacuees have now received support through emergency support services. Smoke has helped moderate fire behavior, but is also creating new challenges for firefighters in the air.
In terms of fire behavior, it can aid in that effort, but for aviation resources, visibility is quite poor, so it's unsafe for our aviation resources to fly and to operate.
For now, the focus is on making this area safe, which means dealing with hazards like hot spots and burned unstable trees near the highway and power lines. Jeff?
Taya Fast in Vernon, BC. Thanks, Taya. 2 correctional officers and an inmate have died in a collision in eastern Alberta. The officers were transferring an inmate from the Edmonton Institute for Women when their van collided with a box truck at an intersection south of Wainwright. The driver of the truck was taken to hospital with minor injuries. The RCMP is now investigating. Police in Toronto announced a major development in a high-profile murder investigation. 2 young men have now been arrested in last month's brazen shooting at a busy street festival that killed 2 people and injured 5 others. Sean O'Shea has the details on the accused and the police investigation.
4 weeks ago, gunfire rang out during a busy Latin-themed music festival in Toronto. 2 people were killed. 5 others were injured during salsa on St. Clair.
What should have been a celebration of community, culture, summer, and all that our city has to offer.
Now Toronto police have arrested the men they say are responsible. 2 18-year-olds facing first-degree murder charges.
I think it's nuts that they even have guns.
Originally, police suggested there may have been an exchange of gunfire on the street that night. The theory has changed.
Following forensic examination, we have determined that that was not the case. Although 2 firearms were recovered at the scene, forensic testing determined that neither had been fired. The evidence indicates the gunfire came from one gun.
In the intersection where the shooting took place, residents expressed relief and some anger.
Why would anyone ever try to shoot someone in public like that? It's disgusting.
It's brazen and complete lack of regard for public safety.
And some here remain concerned about attending events like these again because of the risk.
It makes me think twice about going to other similar larger events, which is really a shame because they're a vibrant part of our community.
I'd like to think that we're recovering from it and we're moving on with our regular lives.
The shootings need to stop in this city. That's all I got to say.
Police say they're making progress on violent crime.
We are able to target the most prolific offenders more effectively today than we have been in the past.
Toronto's police chief has been lately calling on courts and governments to do a better job of making sure offenders can be kept in custody.
We have a growing concern around the brazen behavior we are seeing, and that needs to be tackled.
Just a day ago, Toronto's police chief announced charges in the second shooting outside the U.S. consulate in downtown Toronto. In that case, a 19-year-old and a 15-year-old face gun charges. Jeff?
Sean O'Shea in Toronto. Thanks, Sean. Another Conservative MP has announced plans to resign. Larry Brock has represented the Ontario riding of Brantford-Brant South Six Nations since 2021. He's stepping down in September and will return to his previous position in the Crown Attorney's Office.
It's never good when you're losing caucus members. I think in this instance, at least the Conservatives can say, he's going to do it for the betterment of Canadians. He's going to be a prosecutor, and that's, an area that he's worked with anyway.
In a statement, opposition leader Pierre Poilievre thanked Brock for his service. He's the 7th Conservative MP to resign since last year's election, 4 of whom crossed the floor to the Liberals. Brock's departure will trigger yet another by-election this year. 3 other by-elections are already set for August 31st. A court in New Mexico has ordered social media giant Meta to pay $567 million to address addiction and harm to young people. The judge says Meta's platforms are a significant contributing factor to the current mental health crisis among youth. $420 million will go towards treatment, and the rest will be used for awareness and prevention. It's the second phase of a landmark trial that Meta lost earlier this year, and the largest financial penalty yet for the tech giant. The company says it plans to appeal. Thailand in mourning after one of its deadliest school shootings. Coming up, the casualties from a student's rampage. Plus, a typhoon forces thousands to flee their homes in Japan. Sheets of rain lashed a road in southern Japan as Typhoon Dolphin approaches. The Category 1 storm is expected to maintain its strength as it makes landfall on a chain of islands south of the mainland. 260,000 residents are under evacuation orders. 7 people are dead and nearly 24 injured after a school shooting in Thailand. It happened north of the capital Bangkok this morning. As Nathaniel Dove reports, the shooter was just 14, and a warning, some of the images are disturbing.
Students hiding from a gunman. Thai police later saying no children were killed and that the suspect, also a student at the high school, shot dead staff and his grandparents. But the 14-year-old allegedly injured more than 20 others. At least 9 remain in critical condition. This student says he first thought he was hearing firecrackers. They were gunshots. He ran for shelter. Rescue workers saying they found the suspect after reportedly shooting himself. They gave him CPR. Police saying the suspect later died. The country's prime minister visiting the scene called the incident saddening and said it could have been worse. The shooter had more than 30 bullets left, so more people might have been killed.
It is a violence, but it is not caused by criminals. It is caused by an individual who had carried lots of pressures and tensions.
It is the country's worst mass killing in 4 years and second school shooting of 2026. Thailand has some of the highest gun ownership rates in Southeast Asia. Illegal weapons are common, even though punishment for having an unregistered gun is up to 10 years in jail, though mass shootings are rare.
The gun is a registered one, and it is kept in the house.
The Prime Minister saying the suspect's grandfather owned the gun. Police stating the suspect killed his grandparents before going to school. Authorities seized a computer from the grandparents' house, which displayed a Nazi flag. The Prime Minister saying he will discuss stricter gun control and security measures in schools, but did not offer further details. Nathaniel Dove, Global News, Toronto.
Pakistan, Turkey, and Saudi Arabia have signed a NATO-style defense agreement, deepening cooperation between the three regional powers amid growing security concerns. Under the new deal, an armed attack on one nation would be considered an attack on all three. Saudi Arabia's critical infrastructure and oil facilities have come under attack since the war with Iran began, and Saudi officials say they're bracing for more imminent attacks from Iran and its allies in the coming hours. Roadblocks for robots still ahead. Why Canadian robotics makers fear being shut out of their biggest market. Canadian robotics manufacturers are worried they could become caught up in the Trump administration's latest crackdown on foreign companies. The U.S. has banned advanced robotics from outside the U.S., a move that's widely seen as targeting China. But as Taya Fast reports, the new rules apply to all countries, including Canada.
Canadian robotics companies are developing faster, smarter technology every day. Like this Montreal startup using drones to transform the cleaning industry. Sébastien Matot's business has expanded across Canada and into the United States. But he and other Canadian entrepreneurs are being swept up in a new U.S. crackdown.
We can't sell the technology anymore to the U.S. That's why we lift the flag, because this is such a big field for us. Those are the pressurized hose.
The Trump administration is banning foreign-made advanced robotics, citing national security concerns.
Any autonomous mobile robot. So anything that can move around the environment and that has a degree of ability to sense and think and act and react to that environment.
The move was widely seen as aimed at China, which dominates the market. But a spokesperson for the FCC tells Global News the rules apply to all countries.
It's a very complicated, far-reaching, and disruptive situation.
The robotics industry warns that the Trump administration's policy could slow innovation in Canada, hamper business, and lead to a brain drain of Canadian talent in a field that in many ways is evolving as quickly as AI.
We are actually thinking about moving to the U.S.
Matot wants to stay, but says Canada needs to prioritize the industry.
Robotics is the second biggest innovation in the market so far. We should invest in robotics company to build their own technology.
And to him, that's key to navigating trade tensions and protecting Canadian sovereignty. Taya Fast, Global News, Montreal.
A very slow song. Up next, how the world's longest concert is striking a chord. Welcome back. Imagine attending a musical performance knowing you will never hear the end of it. Well, there's a concert playing right now at a church in Germany that's scheduled to continue for the next 600 years. And the show consists of just one song. Heidi Petracek reports on the epic composition and a recent change of tune.
Inside a 14th century German church, a small pipe organ had been playing this chord for 2.5 years, until Wednesday, when another pipe was inserted to add a different note. A rare moment in the world's slowest and longest concert, which began in 2001 and plans to continue until the year 2640, lasting a mind-boggling 639 years.
The smallest change, and yet it lasts forever.
The piece is called Organ Squared and is meant to be played as slow as possible. This version started with 2 years of nothing but the sound of the organ's bellows and wind until the first note in 2003. After that, the sound only changes with years in between.
As fast as our world is developing, I think it's a wonderful place to be and to come to yourself.
The song's composer, John Cage, died 9 years before this performance began.
John Cage was more than a musician. He was a philosopher.
Musician and composer Jeff Riley of the Canadian trio Blackwood has followed the performance and hopes to experience it while on tour in Germany someday. He realizes he has time, but also knows he'll never hear the end. No one alive now will, and that's the point.
We'll all be dust by the time this thing is completed. So there's absolutely no investment in payoff in your lifetime.
The next note change is in October of next year, the entire performance relying on more than 20 generations to come to reach its conclusion. Heidi Petracek, Global News, Halifax.
And that is our conclusion for this Friday night. I'm Jeff Semple. Tonight's Your Canada is Cavendish, Prince Edward Island. We love seeing your Canada, so please email your photos to globalnational@globalnews.ca. Thanks for watching. Hope to see you back here again tomorrow. Have a great night.